to protect you.
In Portland in the summer of 2023, a miracle of the Virgin Mary happened in a way no one expected. A man who believed in nothing found the only thing that could save him. In the hands of a boy he was never supposed to meet. But before we continue, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I'd love to see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary are reaching. You know that kind of person who lives, but isn't really alive? Derek was like that. 36 years old. A trapeze acrobat. His apartment in Portland had the basics: gray couch, wooden table, single bed, but it had no life. No pictures on the walls, no plant in the window, nothing to show that anyone actually lived there. Have you ever been in a place like that? One that feels more like a hotel than a home? Every morning started the same. The alarm went off at 6. Derek got up without thinking, made coffee that was too strong, drank it standing up, staring out the window without really seeing anything. Then he grabbed his backpack and went to train. The divorce had happened 4 years ago. Derek still remembered the last words Jennifer said before walking out the door with her suitcases. "You're never really here, Derek," she said, her voice too calm for someone ending an 8-year marriage. "Even when you're standing right in front of me, you're not." It's like living with a ghost. Derek couldn't disagree, because she was right. At the circus, he had co-workers who drank together after shows, laughed at the same jokes, but Derek knew that if he disappeared tomorrow, it would probably take them 2 weeks to notice. And that was fine. The less you connect, the less you can get hurt. That Thursday in July, Derek was backstage checking the equipment before the performance. That's when he heard crying coming from behind the curtains. At first it was soft, almost imperceptible, but it grew louder, more desperate, until Derek couldn't ignore it anymore. He stopped what he was doing and stood there, torn. It wasn't his problem. The show started in an hour, but the crying continued. With an irritated sigh, he dropped everything and walked toward it. And he found the boy. Tiny, couldn't have been more than 6 years old, messy dark hair, his face red and swollen from crying so much. He was curled up between the equipment boxes as if trying to make himself invisible. "Hey," Derek said, his tone coming out rougher than he intended. The boy jumped, startled, and looked at him with fear. "Easy," Derek raised his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. Are you lost?" The boy didn't answer. He just kept staring, and the sobs came back. Derek looked around. No one was nearby. It was just him and that frightened little boy. He crouched down to the boy's level. Derek had never known how to deal with kids, never had children, never had nephews, but he couldn't just leave the boy there. "What's your name?" The boy wiped his nose with the back of his hand. "Go on, you can tell me. My name's Derek. I work here at the circus. I'm an acrobat." "What about you?" A few seconds of silence, then in a tiny voice. "Liam?" "Liam," Derek repeated, trying to smile. "Nice name. Liam, did you come here with your mom?" The boy nodded. "And you got separated from her?" Another nod, and his eyes started filling with tears again. It's okay, Derek said quickly. "I'll help you find her, all right? But for that, you have to come with me to the entrance. Can you do that?" Liam looked at Derek for a long moment. Could he trust him? Derek extended his hand, and after a few seconds, Liam took it. The boy's hand was so small it almost disappeared in Derek's. The two walked quietly through the backstage area. When they reached the circus entrance, Derek saw her immediately, a woman of about 30, brown hair tied back in a messy ponytail, her face pale with panic. She was spinning around, searching everywhere. "Liam!" she was shouting, her voice almost breaking. "Liam! Mommy!" Liam let go of Derek's hand and ran. The woman dropped to her knees, grabbed her son, started crying. That kind of pure relief only a mother knows. Derek stood there, not sure what to do. Should he leave? Should he wait? Finally, she pulled back a little to look at her son's face, to make sure he was okay. And then she looked at Derek. Her eyes were red and swollen, but there was a gratitude there Derek wasn't prepared to receive. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "Thank you so much." "He was back by the storage area," Derek replied. "But he's okay. Everything's okay now." The woman nodded, wiping her face, trying to compose herself. That's when Liam stepped back a bit. The boy reached into the pocket of his shorts and took out something that gleamed under the light. A rosary. The beads were glass, dark blue. "Here," Liam said, holding the rosary out to Derek, his little arms stretched out with all the seriousness a 6-year-old can muster. Derek looked at the rosary, then at the boy. "What?" "So you'll be protected," Liam said, his voice steady. Derek shook his head. "No, I can't accept that. It's yours." But you help me," Liam insisted, pushing the rosary closer. "You need to stay protected." Derek looked at the boy's mother, hoping she'd step in, but the woman just smiled. "Take it," she said softly. Derek picked up the rosary. The beads were cold, smooth. Liam smiled. That huge smile only a child gives when he thinks he's done the most important thing in the world. "Thank you," Derek said. The mother lifted Liam into her arms and walked away. Derek stood there, alone, holding the blue rosary. He looked at his watch. 6:30, half an hour until the show. He put the rosary in his pants pocket and ran backstage. At 7 o'clock, the lights in the big top went out. The music started, dramatic, intense. The announcer stepped into the center. "Ladies and gentlemen, the man who defies death every night, Derek, the trapeze artist." The spotlights focused on the platform, 8 meters high. Derek was already there. The audience burst into applause. Derek gripped the trapeze bar, took a deep breath. He'd done this 1,000 times. He swung, once, twice, 3 times, let go with his legs and flew, the wind on his face, the sensation of floating. He released the first bar, spun, caught the second. The crowd screamed. He swung, released, caught the third. Now came the finale, the double somersault. Release, spin twice, grab the bar. Derek gained momentum. He let go. First spin. The audience held its breath. Second spin. And it happened. The safety lock came loose. The belt slackened. Derek tried to recover, to grab something. Nothing, only air. The audience screamed. The ground rushing up fast. Impact. Pain. All at once. Derek tried to scream. No sound came out. Tried to breathe. Couldn't. Voices. Distant. As if coming from underwater. "Someone call an ambulance!" "Don't move him!" The paramedics arrived in 6 minutes. They worked quickly, immobilizing Derek, placing him on the stretcher. At the hospital, he was taken straight into surgery. "How is he even alive?" a nurse whispered to her colleague while they prepared the equipment. Derek spent 3 days unconscious. When he finally woke up, the first thing he felt was pain coming from everywhere at once, as if every cell in his body were screaming. He opened his eyes slowly. White ceiling light. That unmistakable hospital smell. A nurse appeared in his line of sight. "Welcome back," she said, her face full of relief. "You gave us quite a scare?" Derek tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. The nurse placed a straw with cold water at his lips. "What happened?" he managed to whisper. "You fell during the performance." The memories came back slowly. The trapeze, the lock coming loose, the fall, the impact. "You're very lucky," the nurse said as she checked the machines around the bed. In the days that followed, Derek began to understand the extent of the damage. Several fractures in his left arm, 3 ribs, right ankle. But nothing serious with his spine, nothing serious with his head. The doctors couldn't quite explain how that was possible after a fall like that. That night, alone in the hospital room, Derek couldn't sleep. The pain was unbearable. But it wasn't just physical pain, it was everything. 20 years flying, 20 years relying only on his own hands, 20 years thinking he didn't need anything or anyone. And now he was there, alone. No one had come to visit, no one from the circus, no friends, because he had no friends. Derek stared at the ceiling in the dark, and for the first time in years, he let the tears fall. He cried for Jennifer, for being a ghost in his own marriage. He cried for the wasted years living on autopilot. On the 5th day, a different nurse came in carrying a plastic bag. "Your belongings," she said, placing it on the table beside the bed. After she left, Derek stared at the bag for a long time before reaching for it. He opened it slowly. The clothes he had worn during the performance were inside, torn, dirty, stained. Derek took the clothes out of the bag and felt something in the pocket of his pants. He reached in and pulled out the blue rosary. Intact, completely intact. He stared at the rosary for a long time, rolling the beads between his fingers. And then he remembered. His grandmother, she had a rosary too, dark green. She kept it in a small wooden box on her nightstand. Every night before sleeping, she prayed. She always said it offered protection, that the Virgin Mary watched over those who had faith. For you to stay protected. Liam's voice echoed in Derek's mind, a 6-year-old boy he had helped for 5 minutes, who had given away his most precious possession without asking for anything in return. Derek tried to rationalize it. It had to be coincidence. The fall must have happened at a specific angle that minimized the impact. Just luck. It made sense. But what if it wasn't just that? Derek tightened his grip on the rosary. His grandmother had truly believed that the Virgin Mary protected people. Derek never had. He respected it, thought it was beautiful, but he didn't believe. Now, alone in that hospital room, he no longer knew what to believe. He closed his eyes. "If it was you," he whispered, the words awkward and uncertain. "If you protected me, thank you." It wasn't really a prayer. Derek didn't even know how to pray properly, but it was sincere. And for the first time in a long time, Derek felt something other than emptiness. 2 weeks later, Derek was discharged. He went back to his apartment alone. Physical therapy began the following week. Every morning at 8, painful exercises, slow movements, relearning basic things. It hurt so much that sometimes Derek wanted to give up, but he didn't. Every night before bed he took the rosary, held the beads between his fingers, tried to pray. He didn't know the right words, so he improvised. "Virgin Mary, thank you for protecting me. Help me get better." Clumsy, but sincere. And little by little, Derek began to notice something different. He wasn't living on autopilot anymore. When he woke up in the morning, he truly woke up, noticed the sunlight streaming through the window, heard the cars outside, smelled the coffee. Small things he had never paid attention to before. But they made a difference. A month after being discharged, Derek did something he never imagined he would. He bought a plant, a tiny succulent, placed it on the living room windowsill. It seemed silly, but it wasn't. It was life. It was care. 2 months after the accident, the phone rang. It was the circus director. "Derek, I wanted to know if you're interested in coming back. Your trapeze spot is waiting." Derek was silent for a moment. The trapeze had been everything to him for 20 years. But now... "Thanks for the offer," Derek said finally, "but I don't want to go back to the trapeze." "I understand," the director said, disappointment clear in his voice. "It was a pleasure working with you." "Wait," Derek interrupted. "I didn't say I don't want to go back to the circus. I just don't want the trapeze." "Then what do you want?" "I want to teach, work with the beginners, help those who are just starting." There was a pause on the other end. "Are you sure? Derek, you're one of the best trapeze artists I've ever known." "I'm sure." A week later, Derek started as an instructor. It was strange to work with other people after so many years alone, but he discovered he had patience to teach, something he'd never had before. The months went by. Derek trained the beginners every afternoon. Derek started cooking, simple things, but it was better than delivery. One day he called Jennifer. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for never being there." Silence. Then, "Thank you for calling, Derek." She didn't come back. Derek didn't expect her to, but he had peace. 6 months after the accident, on a cold January night, Derek was alone at the circus after the last show. Everyone had gone home. The lights were off. Only the emergency lamps dimly lit the empty ring. Derek sat on the bleachers. He stared at the platform above. He thought about everything that had happened. The lost boy, the blue rosary, the fall, the hospital, the recovery, the transformation. Because it had been a transformation. Derek knew that. "Thank you, Virgin Mary," Derek whispered. "I don't know if it was you, I don't know if it was a miracle or luck, but thank you for protecting me, for giving me a second chance, for reminding me that life is worth living." He opened his eyes, the circus in silence, and he felt peace, because Derek had understood. The true miracle wasn't just surviving the fall. It was discovering that he had never been alone. It was learning that protection comes from impossible places, from a 6-year-old boy with a rosary in his pocket. And all of this began with 5 simple words: for you to stay protected. The gift Liam had given wasn't just the rosary, it was the chance to start over. And Derek had seized that chance with both hands. Before we finish, I want to invite you to become part of our prayer community for the Virgin Mary, a space of faith and hope where people from all over the world come together to pray and share the graces they've received. If you feel in your heart the desire to be part of this prayer chain, click below and become a member of the channel today. Come pray with us. And look, if you've made it this far, until the end of Derek's story, do one thing for me. Write "protected" in the comments, the word little Liam used when he gave the rosary. I want to see how many hearts this story truly reached. And every time I read "protected" in the comments, I'll know that one more person believes that the miracles of the Virgin Mary still happen. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Write in the comments about a miracle you've witnessed or experienced, and share this video with someone who needs to renew their hope today. May the Virgin Mary continue to bless and protect you and your family. Amen.